Welcome to another episode of Transcending the Rabbit Hole. I'm Brandy Anderson, and I'm joined by my very good friends and co-host, Annelise and Parker Bess. Today, we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole with A Course in Miracles, a book that claims the world isn't what you think it is, forgiveness isn't what you think it is, and honestly, neither are you. So let's talk about how we got into it and what it's actually done to us. Annelise and Parker, it's a privilege to transcend this rabbit hole with you guys.
Hey, Brandy. I'm really
Hey.
excited to talk about this. Thank you.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. I'm excited to be here like always. It's gonna be an
Yeah, it's
exciting
great to see.
conversation.
Absolutely. Great to see both of you. And well, I think A Course in Miracles is one of those books that either doesn't resonate at all or it transforms you. At least that's been kind of my experience with it. And I think part of that is because it's a pretty challenging text. Like it asks you to question your
Mhm.
perceptions, your identity, and even how you understand reality itself. And not everyone is in a place where they want to or can do that. So before we get into the ideas that A Course in Miracles presents, let's back up and talk about how we each got pulled into it and what our initial experience was like. Annalise, you reference the course a lot on here, so maybe you can kick us off by sharing your experience with it.
Sure. Yes, this
Yeah.
this book, and I hesitate to say book because it's not a book. This is a living transmission. It changed my life. And the way I got into it was after my spiritual awakening in 2022. And I had read the Bible back and forth. I knew everything there could be found to know in there as far as humans can explain it. I had heard it every day of my life, read it every day of my life, and still was suffering. And I had this spiritual awakening and realized who God was, realized who I am within that, and w- just felt like the what was there in the Bible wasn't able to answer some of those deeper questions I then had. So, I had started listening to Eckhart Tolle at the time, and he references A Course kinda often in his talks. And so if he was referencing it, I had to know about it. So I ordered it. I ordered one and, could not understand it. When it came in, I remember telling Parker, like, "I have to put this great masterpiece away because I think I'm too dumb to understand this right now. Like, I don't understand what this is saying." I can read the words, but I can't really. So I put it away for a couple of months, came back to it, and now it was like a whole new world. I don't know exactly what had occurred in that time, but I had furthered in my awakening, I suppose. And now when I read these words, it wasn't that I was learning something new, but I was remembering something always there, something ancient that had never left, that I'd been obscured from, but I wasn't learning it. It was really a wild experience to read it because it was a remembering. It wasn't something new. Um, so it transformed my life. I started reading it every day, and it gave me so much joy and peace, um, helping me work through the cognitive dissonance that comes with a spiritual awakening of, okay, what now? Like, I get that everything is God. What now? What does this mean? Why am I still so upset? If I know this, why am I still? So it really transformed my life, and um, I've been reading it for about 2 years now. And I told Parker, I don't know, a week into it, you've got to read this, and I'll let him give his experience, but it's been just such a blessing in our lives. Once I could kind of get over my Southern Baptist judgments of how it came into form and all of that, and really just read it, it speaks for itself.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
kinda second what Annalise was saying. I really believe, like, The Course in Miracles is one of the most, spiritual, knowledgeable, sources I've ever, read. I was able to just resonate with that a lot more, than a lot of things, even the Bible, and that's, people probably don't wanna hear that, but, I mean, with this Course in Miracles, it talks about the ego, and I think that's kinda the key to this book. If you're able to understand, what the ego is and how you apply or how you can see that within your own life, I think the book kinda opens itself up to you, but, yeah, I mean, I really everything it says in it is gosh, you would think how could this not be Jesus talking,
Mhm.
through this lady? Because, I mean, a normal person wouldn't be able to just come up with this as, no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't do it. I
I
just personally
agree.
don't believe that. So, yeah, it's helped me out a lot. I'll say that.
Yeah, I agree. It really brings things into sharper focus in a really lucid and helpful way. Years ago, when I first heard about it, I was intrigued, but not really sure where to begin with it. I wasn't sure which translation to go with, or exactly how to engage the text, or because there are three sections in the book: the actual text, and then there's the workbook, and then there's the teacher section. And I read a book back then that was about it. It was, I think, like a simplified overview, but I can't remember the title. And I also read some books by Marianne Williamson, whose work is heavily influenced by A Course in Miracles. And so that was really helpful. But like I said, I was just kind of circling around it, hearing others speak of it. Eckhart Tolle, you mentioned, Annelise, and I've listened to him speak, and it's the same thing. He references A Course a lot. Um, so then several years later, a friend introduced me to a guy who was starting a study group, and he was teaching the course and leading meetings on Zoom. So I jumped in. But some of it really didn't resonate. So I opted out and I just kind of set it aside. Like you were saying, Annalise, it can be difficult to understand. Some of it um, is hard to metabolize. It's written because it is a channeled work, which we'll get into in a moment. It's not written in easy language to kind of understand and metabolize. So you kind of have to be ready for it. And you also still, even if you're ready for it, you have to kind of sit with it. It's not a text to just read and move on quickly. It's something to sit with and let it kind of soak into you. But I think I wasn't ready for it at the time because my view of reality hadn't shifted enough for me to be able to kind of sink into it in the way that I needed to. I had to unravel a bit more of that bad theology I'd been handed before before it could really resonate. And really, it was the shift into seeing what we traditionally refer to as the fall was really a shift into physicality. That is what opened the door for me being able to fully engage with the course. But anyway, after I set it aside, my theology and worldview continued to evolve. And then a couple years later, I read The Disappearance of the Universe by Gary Renard. And that prompted me to circle back to A Course in Miracles. And when I did, everything just clicked. It resonated perfectly at that point, and I've been engaged with it ever since regularly. And it is a transformative text. So yeah, that's kind of how my story goes with it.
We have such
Um,
similar stories. We get it, we say, "What in the world? Put it down, come back to it." Um,
yeah, I think a lot of people do that.
yeah, and I agree, like, it's less of a book that you read and it's more like a lens that starts reading you.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
it shows you how you are, but like you said, it's not like a novel you sit down and read the whole day if you really
Yeah.
want to soak it up little bit by little bit, and because like you said, it is a channeled work, it is a transmission, every word is gold, so it's
Yeah.
not something you can fly through and retain as you're reading it, like, you need time. So it's
Mhm.
something I do the same thing, I sit with little passages each morning, and then a little one thing of the workbook, just one, and that's what the
Mhm.
Course says to do too at the beginning. "Don't fly through this, read one a day, no more, absolutely no
Yeah.
more," because the spirit that wrote that knew our little brains just can't do that, just can't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, as you do, it's like because it's a year through it. So there's like a daily one for every day of the year, 365 days, and then you start over. And as you start over, you'll notice as you read through it again, it hits differently. So
Mhm.
as it's a gradual progression of a perspective shift. And the course is just trying to help you shift your perspective so that you can live more in alignment and have more inner peace. And so, yeah, you just keep circling back to the same things and see them from a different view. But for those who are not familiar with A Course in Miracles, um, it's put forth, like we've already said, as a channeled text, and this alone is a big impediment for some people. Like it was actually scribed by a psychologist named Helen Schuckman. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Is that right, Annelise? Do you know?
That's how I've been saying it.
Okay, I think that's right. But anyway, she wasn't really into spirituality at all. So she began experiencing what she described as a kind of inner voice, and it identified itself as Jesus. And so, over the course of about 7 years, she dictated the entire text to a colleague who typed it up. So, whether you see, that as channeling or something happening in the unconscious or something else entirely, doesn't really matter. That's the origin of the book. And it reframes a lot of traditional Christian ideas. And according to Helen, Jesus suggests that traditional Christian teachings, including like interpretations of the Bible, have been misunderstood or distorted over time. So the Course presents itself almost like a correction of how it's, been understood. So whether you believe it was channeled or not really doesn't matter. The text itself is a powerful recalibration of Christian ideas that I find deeply resonant and transformative personally. But there are some core ideas that really mess with people in a good way. And one idea that's pretty prominent is nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So, in other words, anything that can be threatened or diminished has no basis in ultimate reality, like it's a temporary construct that isn't even real in any ultimate sense. And who we really are, our essence, is safe, like it can't be threatened. And when we realize this, we experience the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding. So, from the outset, the Course is saying that this physical world, with all of its transitory troubles, is not real. It's a projection of the infinite mind of Source. And we suffer because we mistake what isn't real for reality. At every turn, the Course is saying the world is illusion.
Yeah.
Not that it doesn't exist, but that our perception of reality is distorted by our ego. And in my experience, seeing this clearly really helps shift into a more liberating state of being. So what has been your experience with it, Annelise and Parker? How have you noticed it impacting you on a personal level, like in your day-to-day life?
Yeah. Well, I want to back up and say something I learned about Helen before I answer
Yeah.
that. But so I learned that she was a professor, and I think you mentioned that, but that she, like you said, wasn't religious, and that she, when she heard this voice, she told her colleague, like, "I'm hearing something. I don't know if I'm going crazy or not." And he said, "Well, let's dictate it, write it out, and then we'll decide." And so she didn't even put her name on this work because she didn't want to be known as
Yeah.
the author because she wasn't the author.
Right.
And you can tell these are the words of Christ because Christ lives literally within you. And so truth knows truth. Um, so the background story on this is really worth digging into if you're listening and interested. Um, and Brandy, I remember you saying that Granny confirmed that this was uh,
Mhm.
Jesus's attempt at a correction to what had been done to his
Yes.
message, to what
Yeah.
had the religion that had been made from his message. So,
Mhm.
you know, Granny's 2 cents agrees as well. So anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so after I researched Helen, I got into the course because it's called A Course in Miracles, and I wanted to know how to do miracles. I had had this spiritual awakening. I realized the power in me and all if you just step into it and live in a aligned life. So it said A Course in Miracles. Okay, well, I didn't realize the miracle was rooted in changing my perception of everything in the world. I thought I would
Right.
I just open this book and get all the great, Holy Spirit powers taught to me, but it's really an unteaching, like an unlearning of everything we've learned here in this illusion of physical reality, which is just a shadow of the spiritual reality that is our home. Um, so I learned pretty quickly the way to do miracles is just to shift from seeing everything through fear into seeing it through truth, including
Yeah.
myself, including who I am, including who everyone is. And that's the foundational shift. So, like you said before, Brandy, I didn't really like at the beginning that feeling of, oh gosh, you just pointed out like the root of all of my filth, like mental filth, like why I see things this way or why I suffer, why I feel depressed, why I feel anxious. And you've just told me I have to I fix it. Yeah, but it's kind of freeing because you can. It's just simply by wanting to and giving up that egoic vision. So my experience has been working through this course that when I shift my perception, the same situation that felt horrible, that felt so tense, can literally become a different reality when I choose to see it through the lens of the perception of God. How does God see it? Yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
Well,
that.
I think it is what that, the Course in Miracles does as a course is recalibrate your mind to see it, see it that way, see it the way that God intended for people to live on this earth and live with things on this earth. Um, so, I've been going through it. I'm a little behind Annelise and Brandy, but that's kind of what I've noticed as well, where like each day it's just a little tuning to, what your belief system are really just, challenging you to maybe think a little differently or, put things more in perspective a different way. And that's really kind of helped me out a lot. I mean, like, I get up early in the morning and when I read that book, I kind of read like a passage or two a day. And, um, it really helps me out through the day. It's just kind of a refresher, I guess, of good good spirituality, it's just
as like a wife observer firsthand, I can say it's had a huge impact on him because during our years in the church, like seeped in the church, I could never get him to jump on board with me to have a consistent morning, quote, quote, quiet time where we sit with our Bibles, we read a passage, we discuss what it means to us, the whole thing. It just never resonated with him. And so once he learned about the Course in Miracles and he opened it and he read it, it was so different to he was like, "This is not like anything else. I want to read this. This is a fire to my soul."
yeah.
And, he started getting up at 4 in the morning most every day to read this book. And this is a ADHD man's man who just could never fit in that little morning quiet time the way the church said it should go. And pairing this with whether you wanna pair it with the Bible or not, just using this is so uplifting to your soul and your purpose and your entire um, ability here as a person, as a spirit.
Yeah, and the whole, you know, in the Course, Jesus is talking about, what he really meant to like, what he was meaning what his words were meaning to convey, and it just
Yeah.
got lost in the religious translation and or the bent, the power bent to its will, or whatever, but he actually is coming out and saying exactly what he meant for that
Mhm.
to mean. And I like that a lot because that's like more of to me, because I believe that that's him, that's just more of like reaffirming, what it actually is compared
Mhm.
to what could have been twisted and all that other stuff. But,
Yeah.
when you read this book, it although it's channeled in a way that's just not there's just no way that anybody but him wrote it because, from what I understand, she was kind of just letting it come out of her mouth, and the guy was like, sure, her partner is like writing it down at the same time, and you can't do that. Like that's just impossible to like write that out like perfectly like that, and
Mhm.
without brainstorming and anyways.
Yeah. And she
From a
wasn't even spiritual, so,
mm-mm.
Yeah,
like, she wasn't
exactly.
even thinking about these things, so, yeah, it was
That's what's
completely foreign to her.
that's what's so telling is she
Mhm.
had no Christian background. When I first read this book, I appreciated the Christianese language because it was my language at the time, like all I'd ever known. And I think it's the perfect bridge for any Christian in this world who is trying to bridge the gap of this great divide and this great awakening. Because it is Jesus saying, hey, here's what I said in the Bible. Here's what it really meant before the
Mhm.
church told you what it meant.
Yeah.
And your soul knows truth. And so you know it when you read it. Um, But having that Christianese language on it, I think is gonna be a real benefit to people now who are coming to the end of their rope with, "Where do I turn for guidance now that I've had this Christic spiritual awakening?" If that's kind of the boat they're in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's, I think this is just my way of seeing it, is that he would have chosen someone who was not particularly spiritual, religious, Christian, because that filter could get in the
Yeah.
way of the message he was trying to. That
Mhm.
inner filter may have
Yes.
um, distorted the message again that he was trying to convey. And it's also, my way of seeing it is that the Gospels are written by people hundreds of years later. So it's like a reflection on what is kind of remembered. But this text is not someone's just memory or from stories passed down of what they have heard about someone. It's an
Mhm.
actual, it's channeled. It's that person's words conveyed through a medium, if you will. And so I think that makes it extra special. And there are several translations, and some are like, more verbatim. Some have taken some liberty to make it a little more, understandable,
Mhm.
accessible. So I don't know which one is the best to get. I forget the one. I don't even have it in front of me. So
I can
which
hold
one do
mine
you
up
have, Annalise?
for anyone watching along with us. I mean, it looks like a Bible. It's huge. It's it's got the preface, the text, the workbook, manual for teachers, all the things. And so what I do is each day read just a passage. And when I say passage, I mean like one Roman numeral to the next Roman numeral. And then I go to the workbook or the lessons and I do one lesson a day too. But I didn't start doing the lessons until I've been reading this for a year because I didn't feel like my brain could even dissect any more than I was already getting at that time.
Yeah,
So I think when someone feels ready, the lessons are what like gives it a next level. Like
yeah,
it takes what you read and programs it into your subconscious, into your spirit so that you can literally do miracles. I mean, that's the
mm,
whole point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and I'm with you. When I first heard of it, I'm like, "Oh, miracles." And you think like you're gonna be, healing making the blind see or
Yeah.
turning water into wine. You think of those kinds of miracles, healing the sick or whatever, but the miracle is your own distorted perception being made right.
That's
So,
right.
yeah, and really it's forgiveness, to forgive life
Mhm.
for being as it is and to see things as
Mhm.
they truly are. And so, really the miracle is forgiveness. But
Yeah.
there are some who would say that this type of non-dual teaching is spiritual bypassing, or that it invalidates trauma or dismisses real pain. And I think the issue is not the teaching, but the human inclination to take things out of context, like to navigate in extremes. That's kind of what we do as humans. Kind of like Christianity, the Bible. Like there's no shortage of people who are taking things out of context and bypassing genuine transformation. So the ego always takes spiritual truth and bends it to its will. Uh, to say that the world is illusion is not saying that the pain didn't happen. Like it's saying the way we've come to understand what that pain means about us, about others, about reality itself just might not be true. It's more about our mental narrative and the meaning that we assign to things. Pain is inevitable. To incarnate is to experience pain, but it's our identification with the world that causes the suffering. For me, it's a shift from taking things personally, from feeling like bad things are happening to me, and instead I see the difficulties as happening for me, for my growth and highest good. That's not bypassing pain; it's allowing it to transform us instead of resisting it. Um, but yeah, so like I guess what I'm trying to say is that really our suffering is because we wish things were other than they are. We don't
Mhm.
we don't want to feel anything unfavorable. But the path into wholeness is not about feeling better, it's about feeling everything. So
Mm.
the course isn't bypassing pain the way that I understand it. It's putting things in their proper perspective so that you allow life to flow as it is without clinging to what is desirable or resisting what is undesirable. It's a very real trap. I would much rather set my feelings aside than to deal with them in a healthy way. And I've been caught in that trap of hoping that with enough meditation and spiritual alignment that I might feel better. But I've come to see that wanting to feel better is a trap, and life is about feeling everything with openness. What do you guys think about that? What are your thoughts?
Well, I want to say this about what you were just saying. When you were saying that, I just was thinking like to want is lack, and to lack is
Yeah.
to attract lack, and that's
Yes.
just, it's hard to get out of that trap as well. Most people are kind of blindly in the loop trap of that, and um, yeah, it's just, I just had to say that because that's just brought that up,
Yeah.
it brought it to mind.
Mhm. And
So,
to want anything is the root of your suffering.
yeah, it
Yes.
is.
Who wants anything means you don't know that you're already everything. You don't know that you're
Right.
already whole and content. And but Brandy, I resonate with everything because I
Yeah.
do feel everything, and it's horrible to feel everything sometimes. Um, I think the course shows you what you're feeling. It's not that it's not real; it's that you don't really understand the meaning of it. You don't understand the source of the pain. The source of the pain is always like you said, that you want the moment to be different than what it currently is, and that's the root of all pain. Um, but learning to
Yeah.
accept it is the hard work, and not accept it like, "Oh, this is like I'm being so mistreated, I'm just gonna accept it." But to see it through a different lens, and that's what slowly transforms it. And I like how the Course defines sin as the result of not right-mindedness.
Mm.
So sin is not real, and the Gospel of Mary says this too. Sin does not exist. That's a concept like we've made up here on earth to keep people in bondage, but sin is just what happens when you forget that all is within God. And therefore you act out of that separateness, that not right-mindedness, that forgetting. And when you see it like that, everything can be repaired, every single thing. Um, even your worst pains and traumas can be repaired through that light. So I think that's what it's doing, is it's making you change your perception, not bypassing your pain, but change your perception about pain. Because
Right.
when you can get your mind right, and by right I mean when you realize you're not separate from God, your pain now just never was.
Right.
So, and that might just sound like a bunch of fairy dust to somebody first listening to this, but it once you start reading the course, it breaks down the barriers in your mind that prevent you from experiencing peace and joy. Because I have found out, sadly, I'm the one that's in the way of me at all times. It's no one else. It's always me. And this book just shows you how to get out of your own way.
Yeah, I have to second that. I mean, I really think with this book, it's taught me to ride the wave. That's like my motto the past year or so, is just kind of let life be, and don't try to make a narrative out of uh the future, or make a narrative out of the past, and just kind of just live in the present moment for the most part. And it's really taught me that, and that's helped out a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Annalise, when you were saying, that you're in your own way, I was thinking just the other day, I was listening to that Ozzy Osbourne song, Road to Nowhere. He said, I was looking back on my life and all the things I've done to me. I'm like, yes, Ozzy, that's
That's
it.
so
All the
true.
things I've done to me. Because we are just self sabotaging, whether we know it or not. And I think, the people who would say it's just spiritual bypassing, that non dual teaching or A Course in Miracles, the way it kind of lays things out, it can come across that way if you're not ready to go within, look within, and see the ways that you are sabotaging yourself. So it can, for someone who is still stuck in that desire of, wanting to bypass the very real work of entering the cave they don't want to enter, as Joseph Campbell puts it, we don't want to face our junk. So if you
Mhm.
don't want to face your junk, then you will spiritual bypass. But people use the Bible to spiritual bypass also. So it's not that the Bible is telling you, to spiritual bypass. It's that it's just the human inclination, right? To use whatever spiritual teaching to avoid anything that is unpleasant, unfavorable, any kind of difficult emotions, and reach some blissed out mountaintop experience. And that is not enlightenment. Enlightenment is not feeling better, it's feeling everything. And so Yeah, I think, and that's also why it's such a gradual progression of we shift our perspective gradually. That's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say, because you can't just suddenly shift out of all of that. It's a lot of, things are kind of knotted up. You kind of have to unravel layer by layer all of the ways that your perception is distorted.
Mhm.
So, yeah, just little by little over time as you work through the course, especially if you're doing those daily lessons, you'll see with different with a fresh perspective, and you'll be liberated, because that's what the
Yeah,
course is about. It's liberating you into your highest life path. That's the miracle, like we've been saying. So yeah,
that's right.
um,
What
yeah,
you said, spiritual bypassing, we joke a lot. The greatest spiritual bypassing is what the church tells you to do if you want to be saved, which is say that Jesus is your Lord and Savior and admit that you're a sinner and believe.
And that's
And
it.
that's it.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah,
No, that's not it. Like, it, what it is having this change in perception, this total renewal of mind, this total remembering of who you are.
mm-hmm.
And then do, like you said, facing that icky stuff within. You can't, that's just such a dangerous lie that they have fed the masses that
Yeah,
if you just say, Jesus, you're my Lord and Savior, you're just sailing on into heaven.
yeah.
And that's how they keep people in hell over and over and over
Oh
again.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so that's spiritual bypassing is telling people you don't need to do any inner work. Jesus did it for you. Just say he's your
Yeah.
Lord and that's all. That's no, like that is spiritual bypassing.
Yeah.
I
Amen.
agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Because of Course in Miracles, like you said, it's all about perception. It's highlighting that we have a perception problem. And by engaging with the course regularly, our perception is just shifted little by little. And the word repent, metanoia is the word for this, is transcending the binary mind, seeing reality through a non-dual lens. So it's that single eye that Jesus spoke of. And one of the most liberating aspects of the course is the way it reframes forgiveness. I have an entire chapter on this in my forthcoming book, Transcending Church, because forgiveness is the solution to our distorted perception if forgiveness is understood properly. The traditional way of understanding forgiveness is something like, you did this terrible thing to me and you shouldn't have, but I'm going to be the bigger person and I'm going to overlook your transgression. And the Course is essentially saying that the story you built around that moment about yourself, about the other person, about what it all means isn't actually true. It's a distortion, because who you really are cannot be threatened, and who they really are cannot threaten you. So all of this distorted thinking that leads to distorted action is a temporary display within our dreamlike state of existence, really. So forgiveness isn't something that you offer someone, like it's a correction in how you are seeing the situation, the other person, yourself. But that doesn't mean that what happened didn't have an impact on you, and it doesn't mean that you don't feel it. But it does mean you're not like locked into the interpretation that keeps the pain alive, the suffering. And this is where it starts to overlap, I think, with shadow work, because you're not just forgiving someone, you're actually looking at your own perception, your own narrative, and you're asking, is this really true? It removes that position of I was wronged, and it invites you to look at what you have made it to mean. And that's not always comfortable, because we would much rather, have that moral superiority of, looking down on the other person from that elevated perspective and being like, yes, you did this terrible, awful thing. You're a lowly sinner, but I am going to forgive you from this elevated position. But, you know, that's not what it's about. It's calling us inward so that we can shift our narrative and our perception.
Yes, Brandy, I agree how it's a returning over and over and over to that new perception, little micro changes. Um, and when we're triggered, we get to do the work of pausing and noticing, like, what story am I giving this that's making me triggered? One of my
Yeah.
favorite things the Course says in the workbook is, I could choose to see peace instead of this, or I can see peace instead of this. Like, you get to choose what you see and the meaning you give it. And that's very powerful. I mean, that's very powerful, that power that you have. So if you're giving it these negative meanings, you're going to get negative results. But if you can see people who harm you as people who are also in not right-mindedness, people who have also forgotten that they're one with God, people who have also been programmed to think that they're separate and that they're vulnerable and that they're doomed to sin and be unworthy, then they're going to act like that.
Mhm.
So you have to, forgiveness is learning to see everyone as God, not just your own little light that shines, everyone, and to be able to see the difficult personalities on top of those little lights of God, to be able to see that those are just forms of not right mindedness. That's not who that spark is. And that's a hard thing to do. It really is. But the Course helps. It helps so much. And just to put people in the light of love. And that's forgiveness, is just realizing that nothing harmful actually ever happened. Like in the end, it was all just results of not right mindedness in these bodies, which are not really real. I mean, this is the manifestation of a spiritual realm. So we're in these brains that think they're separate, acting in not right mindedness, which results in what we call sin, which is harm to the body. But you can't harm the soul. You can't. Like Brandy said, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. It's all God. So forgiveness is seeing everything as that, and then seeing all who do not act in alignment with that, having compassion and forgiveness for them. Like Jesus said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they do. And that's not always easy, but the Course helps you every day. Just remember that and do it for yourself too. When you quote, quote, mess up, when you act out of an egoic mind instead of that heart center, um, to forgive yourself and say, oh, I forgot again. Let me go back. Let me go back to source. Who am I? And what meaning do I really want to give this? Because the meaning you give something creates the world around you. Everything that is around you comes from what is within you. And that's something the Course talks a lot about. And people don't realize that everything outside of them, they created. That they, at somewhere in their journey, they put out thoughts or wishes or wants or energies of some sort that has brought their life to them. Not that they're at fault for the worst traumas they've experienced, but that, like you said, it's for their highest good in the end. Um, Even though these bodies, it's awful to these bodies, for the spirit, it will be for the spirit's highest good. You can't threaten the spirit. So, and again,
Yeah.
this might sound like mumbo jumbo if you're not on this path, but um, it is just so freeing. And I want to share it with the world. And I tried to share it with my dad for Christmas. I got him the whole thing. I'm like, here it is. And I printed out this these long pages of Helen's story and where it came from, and prepped him for it, because if you're from a Christian community, it sounds wild at first. Um,
Mm.
and I asked him a little later, how are you liking it? Oh, I haven't opened it yet. So, okay, I'm going to keep asking though, because it took me a while too. Even when I did open
Yeah.
it, it was foreign. It was just foreign. But keep coming back to it, because at some point your heart will be ready for it. I'll pass it off to you.
Well, goodness, I mean, I think you said it all. I I don't have much to say after that other than, I think forgiveness and the ego go hand in hand in certain ways. I think, the ego, it takes a lot it takes a chunk away from your ego to be able to forgive, to be able to, like, look at, like y'all are saying, to look at the situation from maybe a different point of view, or like to intentionally forgive, not like, okay, sure, I forgive you. Just like in a sincere way. It really does change the ego's point of view. And when I talk about the ego, I'm kind of talking about as whole separate entity of somebody, because the ego is just what we've made up from society and into our minds. That's not necessarily who we are. Like when we die, like Parker's not gonna, you know, my ego isn't gonna transcend into the astral realm. I don't think. It's just that's who I am here on this earth, and who my soul has become known to be. And with the forgiveness, I think, everybody could be taken down a step, I think, with their ego. Some people are pretty mastered with it, but other people, Yeah, that's just the whole thing, I believe, with this Course in Miracles. It's taught me that the ego is what gets in the way of everything. It's really the enemy of everything that has to do with your ascension. And, as long as the ego is present, you're going to kind of run into problems of like maybe that voice in your head telling you, let's not do that today. Let's skip reading that or whatever. So, yeah.
Because the ego is so pervasive, right? And it really is our issue. It's what keeps us from our highest life path. And it's not that the ego is bad. It's just that it's out of place.
Right.
It's
Mhm.
a tool. It's a wonderful tool when it's used properly, but we're in a situation where we have become identified with
Yeah.
this ego structure, and so it's running our lives. It's like it needs to be in the vehicle, but it doesn't need to be in the driving seat, in the
Yes.
driver's
Right.
seat. So yeah, so that's I guess our primary issue for sure. And that's what, like you're saying, Parker, that's what A Course in Miracles is tapping into at every turn. It's basically calling us into confronting that ego structure and the narratives that we have on loop, our internal narratives, and yeah, the things that we're identified with, the characteristics that are totally driving our lives. And the kind of forgiveness that's peddled in churches for the most part isn't going to liberate anyone.
No.
It's not the ticket to heaven that people think it is. The only forgiveness that brings us into the kingdom of heaven is the kind that forgives all of life for being as it is. Like we enter the kingdom when we drop the judgment of ourselves and others and allow life to just be as it is. Like no more ego posturing, no more labeling and dividing, no more defending that small self. It's just a relaxed and open posture in the face of sometimes horrific evil. And I
Mhm.
think about Jesus and how he stayed down and open regardless of what he encountered. It's not closing our hearts in the face of pain. That's what it means to come into alignment, individuate, integrate. And that's where peace is found, and that's what the course is trying to bring us into. So yeah, it's experiencing pain or the pain of existence without closing our hearts.
Mhm. And I think it talks about in the Course too how the ego, it puts itself on the seat, the throne seat of God's Son in every
Yeah, yeah,
body. And people think God's Son, that there's just one, that it's just Jesus. And that's something else the Course talks about a lot. He,
yeah.
he says there is one Son. We're all one Son. We're all it.
Mm.
Um,
Hmm.
all of consciousness is the Son of God, capital S. All of
Yeah,
consciousness is that one self, capital S. And so, but when you put an ego at the throne of your mind, now God's Son can't rule. So you're not doing miracles. You're not living, in alignment. You're struggling, you're suffering. But as soon as you just say, I want to see rightly, I want to see as it is, I want true vision, the Spirit's vision, you get it. And that's what's so amazing is it's all up to you, to us. Like you get to choose. Um, and I've said this before, but I think that's what John 3:16 means esoterically is um, that God loved the world so much he gave his one son, and that's what the Course talks about. And whoever believes that in that one son will have everlasting life. But it wasn't about believing that Jesus is the one and only Son of God. That's not what he was saying. It was this what we're saying right here, that all is God's Son, and God's not going to be happy until God is complete, meaning every son, every daughter of God has returned to that awareness of who they are in the kingdom of heaven, so to speak. And we're in the kingdom of heaven. We've made it hell. So
What do
yes.
they call that? The sunship?
the
Something?
sonship, the
Hmm.
sonship.
Sonship.
Yeah, but the kingdom of heaven can't really be threatened. We've just made our perception of it so hellish. So it's
Right.
in that remembering that everything can change. And I've said this before, if everyone would have a spiritual awakening or um, like a total profound, um, whether it's through psychedelics, suffering, uh, inner, meditation, stillness, whatever, just that moment of what the Course calls the holy instant, where you remember, Oh my gosh, I was never that horrible person, that horrible, heavy person that I've been dragging around. She was an illusion. Oh my gosh, thank God. Thank God. I'm actually one with all that is, and nothing can harm that. Like, that's when everything will change.
Mm.
Everything.
Yeah, yeah, very well said. And when we talking about forgiveness and how we live into that, because that's what it really is about, right? It's about letting go of our judgment of ourselves and others. Because when you see that you are one with Source, like you're saying, you have that holy instant where you get that glimpse of reality as it truly is, ultimate reality. It allows you to forgive. That's what it really is. It's just that we have a distorted way of thinking of forgiveness. But when we see forgiveness as it truly is, and as it's outlined in a course, and we see it as it's really a letting
Yeah.
go of our judgment, our defenses, our need to be right. That stop defending the small self. And as within, so without, right? So if we stop judging ourselves, then we stop projecting our judgments onto others, because all of our judgment of others is just a projection of something that we have denied and judged within our own self. So I guess the next question is, once you begin to see this in A Course in Miracles, you're working through, can you actually live this kind of forgiveness? Like, where does it break down in real life situations? It sounds powerful in theory, but what does this actually look like when you're triggered or when you're hurt or in conflict?
Well, I guess it would. Gosh, I guess it would look like just trying to see everything through the lens of love. I don't
Yeah.
really know if you can do it any other way, to be honest,
Yeah.
because you can. I mean, I've tried to love, 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 and there's sometimes where I just can't. So that's where it's just like, it comes out. But
Yeah. Seeing everything as the light of God, through the light of God, love, whatever words you want to
Yeah.
give it.
yeah,
But that means seeing everybody as that, not just yourself, not just like your loved ones and the people that are enjoyable, but even the turds that you meet, just in the city. Like you see everybody through the lens of love.
yeah,
And then that's forgiveness. Yeah, it's not easy. It's
Mm-mm.
really not easy. And that's what the course is so demanding. It demands you
Yeah.
give up everything you thought you knew about yourself and others and the world. And it's just a letting go. The hard work is just let go. That's the hard work. It actually asks nothing of you except let
Yeah.
go. And
It's so simple, but
funny enough, that's
gosh.
like the hardest thing.
Yeah.
But it's a great thing to let go because you're letting go of an absolute just disease when you
Yeah.
let go. And
Yeah.
so it's very freeing, but that initial, oh my gosh, what? Like that initial letting go is a lot. But once you do, everything changes and your vision changes. Where truly now, everybody I see now, this wasn't how I saw everybody, say 2, 3 years ago. Now, everybody I see I have in the forefront of my awareness that they are the spark of God,
yeah,
Yeah.
always. Now when they act a fool, when they tick me off, when they're not being so love and light, I still have that in my
Oh,
awareness
yeah.
and it helps me treat them with compassion
Mm.
for who they don't know they are, but I do. So I better act on that knowing and that truth. And that's how I keep miracles churning and turning. That's how we each do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Forgive them for they know not what they do. That's
Mhm.
that's really what it is seeing
exactly.
through all of that hurt and distortion to the core of who they really are, who you really are, where this whole thing is headed. And I think that's where it really gets real, because it's one thing to talk about forgiveness conceptually, and it's another thing entirely when you're actually triggered. Because in those moments, your body is reacting, your emotions are there, and you're not thinking, like, well, let me correct my perception. Like, that's the last thing you want to hear when you're, in the moment like that, when you have been offended or when someone has been really rude or hurtful. And anything that elicits a strong emotional charge makes it really difficult to remain centered in real time. Like, it pulls us out of the moment and into that defensive, head centered mode of being. So for me, it's not something I can always live in real time. It's something, though, that I can come back to after I've felt what I'm feeling. And then I can start to question the story that I built around it. Um, And it's also being able to be the observer and notice what I'm feeling and not react in the moment, but to allow myself time to put space between what I'm feeling and process it, metabolize it in a healthy way, and kind of circle back to it. So it's really not about never being knocked off center. It's about being mindful and aware enough to be able to come back to center and look within. So yeah, it's also not about getting rid of the reaction. I think it's about not building a permanent story out of it. And
Mm.
you feel what you feel, the emotions, the trigger, it comes online. Be the witness, be the one who is aware of it, and then question, is this really true? Am I seeing things as they really are? And then you can kind of metabolize and then form a response around a much broader or more expansive way of viewing the situation rather than just reacting out of that hurt or that trigger or that pain in that moment.
That's good advice.
I think, what you were just saying about being the observer of your emotions, that's huge, because
Mm,
most people aren't. And
mm.
like myself, like that's like the biggest thing I try to do, even though I fail at it, multiple times. It's still consciously, that's what I try to do, go into anything with, I'll tell you what though, just take a step back and for at least 5 or 10 seconds, and that really helps, in the moment
Yeah.
of feeling so frustrated. We are our souls. We're not our bodies. And we're able to be multidimensional like that and look at things from different perspectives. And that's a good way to, exercise that because that alone makes you more enlightened and as well will lead to better judgments, I would say, and yeah, it's just a great tool to have all around to be the observer of your thoughts.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mindfulness,
Yeah.
mindfulness. I tell all of my clients, that's one of the first things that I reiterate to them, begin a practice of mindfulness because you can meditate, sit on the cushion, and that's helpful, for a few minutes at the beginning of your day, but it's how you're engaging reality in real time that's going to
Mhm.
ultimately make the difference. Can you be mindful as you're shopping in Walmart? Can you, or whatever, interacting with your spouse or whatever? And that's not to say that you won't get pulled into a moment, become identified with it, and lose all mindfulness in the moment. Sometimes we are, if things are particularly triggering, if there's, a really sharp or strong emotional charge, that's what will probably happen. But the more you practice mindfulness and the more you come back to center, you get pulled away and you come back, the more centered you remain over time. It's like a gradual recalibration of how you are engaging reality. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean you won't feel all the feelings. It won't, and it's not to say, oh, this won't feel painful or icky or you won't feel anxious or whatever. It's that you are no longer identified with that feeling, no longer swept up in the drama in a way that you're being controlled by these patterns that just have momentum in your life. You're able to make a choice, step out of it, and choose a more life giving response. So, yeah,
Mhm.
mindfulness is certainly helpful. And like along the lines of spiritual bypassing, some would say because the Course is asking us to move beyond the wound, that it would lead to bypassing something that needs to be integrated. And the question becomes how does A Course in Miracles square with doing our shadow work or our inner work? What do you think? As you engage with A Course, do you feel like it's asking you to kind of bypass the wound and practice forgiveness in the moment and not really do the actual work that needs to be done? I mean, what has been your experience as you've kind of worked through it?
I feel like it shows you what's there. It shows you the shadow or the wound that you're holding on to, and then it asks you to let it go. It's
Mhm,
it's not that you're ignoring it, it's that you're able to see it's not real. It's something in your mind that you're replaying. It's not something that's
mhm,
happening to you or your soul. It's a story that you've ascribed to and given so much meaning to, even your identity. And so once you see the shadow, I think the work is just to let it go. That's not bypassing. That's you're facing your demons. You're facing your fears, your shadows, the things that hold you back. Um, so I think it's been extremely helpful for me with pointing out shadows and then how to let them go. not just let it go, it never happened. Like it tells you, this is why you feel this way about these narratives in your life, and this is how you get over it. Um, Literally get over it like a bridge, not like it never
Yeah.
happened, but transcend it.
I
Yeah, I
like
love
what you
that.
said. I like what you had to say there about, fear and reinforcement and just being able to transcend that through being able to just bypass basically the personal CDs. That's what I've come to call them, or they were called to me at least when I was doing this self-help app. That's what they were calling, is where your personality is like you have your own design and you just kind of self-replay that loop, over and over again. And that's like your life, and till you can kind of step back and see that and you focus on how to fix it, or maybe, you know, fix your perception on that particular thing, your life gets a lot better once you can do that. And the Course in Miracles really puts it in perspective, with the whole, like Annalise was saying, like you see the problem and you see the solution of how to fix it and how to let it go, because it's all not real. It's a perception. It's not what reality is most of the time. And that's a huge thing with anybody, and mostly everybody lives in a narrative that they made up, of the future or of the past. So when we can kind of step away from that and live in the present moment and within God, when, to me, like, not being separated from God, like the Course in Miracles talks about, is not worrying about the future, or not, maybe not past, but like not worrying about the future, or not worrying about anything other than just the moment. Because when you're in the moment, you're full on connected back within. And yeah.
Yeah, I like it. It
Yeah.
does point back to be here now, be here now.
Mm.
Like all the things the mystics say, the gurus, the teachers, be here now and recognize that all is God. And that's pretty much it. Like be the loving awareness, know who you are, know what power you have, and know what power your words have, know what power your actions have, know what power your thoughts have. And now you can change yourself and the whole world.
Yeah. Yes, Jeff Foster said, heaven is this moment, and hell is the burning desire for this moment to be different.
That's
And so that
right.
really
Yeah,
is
yeah.
it. And Parker, like you were saying, the narratives, that's the thing that needs to be recalibrated, right? Because it's not the thing in and of itself that causes us the suffering. For instance, if we had something happen to us years ago, that whatever happened is over. Like it's not happening anymore, but it may as well be, because our inner narrative is just on
Mhm.
loop, playing out that same internal, story of victimization and hurt and suffering. And so, yeah, it's about flipping the script. It's about having another thought, changing our perspective. And I think from a psychological perspective, I don't think that you can skip integration. Like the shadow doesn't dissolve just because you intellectually reframe something. So if the course is read purely at the level of, well, this isn't real, everything is illusion, I think it could become bypassing, for some people if they take it in that context and kind of run with it. But if it's held alongside real inner work, it can actually shift the meaning of the wound without denying the experience of it. And I don't think it's either or, really. I mean, I think that the course is pointing beyond the wound, but that doesn't mean you can bypass the process of actually feeling and integrating what's there. So, if anything, I found that if you try to jump straight to it's an illusion without doing that deeper work, it doesn't actually transform anything. It just kind of gets pushed down, repressed. So, for me, it's like the wound still needs to be met, but the course is just inviting you not to build your identity around it, to have a different perspective of it, to see it in a new light. And I think it's when we try to oversimplify it, like when we see it through a dualistic lens, that we flatten it out and it loses the nuance and we end up bypassing. The same thing happens with the Bible, any spiritual teaching. If you engage it without first transcending that binary mind, that binary thinking, you're just going to miss the point and drive it into the ditch. And I think that's why Jesus began his ministry with the words repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. He prefaced everything that he was about to say with metanoia, go beyond the mind. Because if we engage spiritual teachings from a dualistic mind, we end up worse than when we started in many cases. But Jesus said he spoke in parables, which are koan-like. They're not straightforward, so that those who weren't ready wouldn't hear his message. So I think that's pretty powerful to stop and think about also. If someone is not ready, it can do more damage to have certain insights, kind of revealed. So, yeah, we have to be ready. We have to be ready to go within because our work is always within.
Mm-hmm. I agree. There was a time where I didn't even know I had work within. I thought I'm a whole person. I'm an adult. I went to church. I got my degree. I'm I'm done. Now
I'm
I
going
just
to heaven
live.
when I
I'm
die.
going to heaven because I said Jesus is my Lord.
Yeah.
Um, so when I would hear people in spiritual circles talk about like my healing journey, I was like, I don't know what you have to heal from. I'm good. And then have this, aha, holy instant spiritual awakening and realize, oh my gosh, everything was a lie. Everything I thought was me was not. I have so much work to do to unpack what this means. Um, and the work is just letting go. But like you said, it's not just a one time letting go.
Oh,
You really have to do it over and over because our minds are like these tapes, these CDs. Parker
mhm.
mentioned tapes. Gosh, how old am I? Um,
Going farther back than a CD.
Yeah, but these CDs of who we are, they're hard to silence, and I think it takes.
Mm.
But the course is great because it breaks it down. So every day it just gives you a little bit of encouragement for how to let that go and how to reframe. And it's like a ninja mind course. It's retraining your
Yeah.
mind to allow miracles to flow through you because that's your natural function as a child of God, you're made for that. You're the one who blocks yourself from doing it. And so this clears the way for you to be you and not this whole illusion that's been placed upon you through the matrices of the world. Truly.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard someone, I can't remember who it was, but a spiritual teacher, someone I was listening to, they said, everything I have let go of has claw marks on it. And I'm like,
Uh,
yes, indeed. It's so simple, but it is definitely not easy. And yeah, we typically do leave claw marks on everything that we do eventually let go of.
yeah.
But yeah, I thought maybe we could wrap things up today by each sharing a quote from the course that really resonates with us personally. So, do you guys have something that you would like to share?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay.
My first one is, or not first one, my favorite one is, uh, I am never upset for the reason I think.
Mm,
And, you know, I think that's really good because it's kind of like what we've been saying, a lot of people, um, I mean, myself included, will play a narrative in our heads and we'll believe that's the story, and we'll go along with it as if it is. And a lot of the times it's not the story. So, so I really, I just, I don't know. I like that. It resonated a lot with me.
I love that one. I really do. It speaks to me on a deep, deep level.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. What about you, Annalise? Do you have something to share?
Mine's a little lengthy. Should I go now?
Yeah. Yeah. Hit us with it.
Okay. Yes, I do. This is surprise, surprise. I have many more words than Parker that I'd like to share.
That's why I went first.
This is from chapter 20, section 8. It's titled The Vision of Sinlessness, and it's just an excerpt from there. And I made a note above it. I said, this is the recipe for peace and joy. Like just simple, like bake it in the oven. Peace and joy is what you get. So here's what it says. Open the holy place that you closed off by valuing the something else, and what was never lost will quietly return. It has been saved for you. Vision would not be necessary had judgment not been made. Desire, now its whole undoing, and it's done for you. Do you not want to know your own identity? Would you not happily exchange your doubts for certainty? Would you not willingly be free of misery and learn again of joy? Your holy relationship offers all this to you. As it was given you, so will be its effects. As its holy purpose was not made by you, the means by which its happy end is yours is also not of you. Rejoice in what is yours but for the asking, and think not that you need make either means or end. All this is given you who would but see your brother as sinless. All this is given, waiting on your desire but to receive it. Vision is freely given to those who ask to see. Your brother's sinlessness is given you in shining light to look on with the Holy Spirit's vision and to rejoice in along with him. For peace will come to all who ask for it with real desire and sincerity of purpose, shared with the Holy Spirit and at one with him on what salvation is. Be willing then to see your brother's sinlessness, that Christ may rise before your vision and give you joy. And place no value on your brother's body, which holds him to illusions of what he is. It is his desire to see his sinlessness as it is yours, and bless the Son of God in your relationship, nor see in him what you have made of him. The Holy Spirit guarantees that what God willed and gave you shall be yours. This is your purpose now, and the vision that makes it yours is ready to be given. That was long-winded, but basically he's just saying in such a powerful way, if you would just allow your ego to disintegrate, essentially, and allow God to take that throne of your life again. And if you would also see your brother and sister as sinless, if you would also see them as lights of God, then peace and joy will be yours. Like it's that simple. And I really do believe it is, because it's when I'm in that state of awareness in my day that I'm blissfully happy. And as soon as I break that state of awareness and fall back into duality, I'm miserable. And so it's going back to that over and over, over and over. What I love is this is your purpose now. This is your purpose. It's your natural purpose. So it's not hard to do. It just requires letting go of everything you thought you knew, which is very humbling, very humbling. And most people don't. Either they don't even know there's a problem, or they know there's a problem and they don't want to do anything about it. But
Yeah.
until you let go, you're not going to have that peace and that joy that's all you want. Every little hole in your heart that you try to fill with anything and everything, you really just want peace and joy. And the only way to have that is to remember who you are. And you are a light of God, and everyone else is too. So start treating each other that way, and heaven is on earth again. Yeah. What about you,
Yeah.
Brandy? What did you pick?
Yeah, I love that, by the way, what you shared, because everybody does want peace, and they want to feel integrated and at peace. But I think, when you said some people don't even know there is a problem, I think people think the problem is external.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the shift, is to see that, yeah, everybody intuits that something is not right here, but they think that it's something external. Like if they could just get this next thing, or,
Right.
just if this person would just behave and act the way that I want them to. And if I could just get this job or have this new car or whatever it may be.
Right.
But really, it's the shift is inward. But yeah, so it was hard for me to select just one quote to share, but I decided to go with it's lesson 189, paragraph 7, because I think it does a nice job of summing up the point of everything. So I will read it. It is, let's see, here's what it says. Simply do this: be still and lay aside all thoughts of what you are and what God is, all concepts you have learned about the world, all images you hold about yourself. Empty your mind of everything it thinks is either true or false, or good or bad, of every thought it judges worthy, and all the ideas of which it is ashamed. Hold on to nothing. Do not bring with you one thought the past has taught, nor one belief you ever learned before from anything. Forget this world, forget this course, and come with wholly empty hands unto your God. See, I think this really is what life is about. Like, all of life is designed to awaken us to the truth of our being, which transcends the binary mind and the distorted perceptions like the physical world, even the words, the teachings that we use to help get us here. So come with holy, empty hands unto your God just let go. Like stop trying to understand and conceptualize and just relax into the truth of your own being. So, yeah, that really resonates for me.
I love that.
I do too.
I haven't reached that
Yeah.
lesson yet, and
Yeah.
I needed that. Thank you. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all of that's it in a handbasket. I mean, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just let
Yeah.
it go. And that's the hardest thing to do because we are taught to cherish these little characters we make and to cherish these little stories we carve out. Oh, I went to school. I did this. I'm a master's of this. I got this and that award. I have this many kids and that many accolades. No, you don't. You know what? Let it go. Let everything go. And then you can be happy. I mean, it's
Yeah.
really, but it's not that something I've had trouble with is finding the balance of how do you do that, let it go, and operate in this 3D reality as those roles that you're letting go in your
Yeah.
spiritual walk. Um, that's where it gets real juicy and challenging in a good way. But that's the work, I think,
Yeah.
balancing the sacred and the um, I'm blanking on my word, the sacred and the secular.
Yes.
Yeah, so, like,
Yeah.
how to fulfill these roles that the means my quote talked about, "It's not up to you the means by which the miracles are done." Well, the means are your life. The means are, like, what you're walking through in your life. So, in my case, my means are this woman right here in the role I'm in as a wife, mother, musician, whatever other labels you want to use. Those are my means. And that's how I'm made to do the miracles I'm made to do. But your means are something else. And the other person in the room, his means are something else. And it's not up to you, those means. So, like, that's really empowering to me. Like, accept who you are. Those are the means to the miracles you were made to do.
Mm.
And the Course says that's not up to you. The means aren't up to you. And like the how it's done is up to you. You're just asked to let go and let it be done through you.
Yeah.
And that's just everything. That's just
Yeah.
everything. Just let go of who you thought you were and allow God to use your life, whatever that looks
Cool.
like. And it's probably not what you thought it would look like, but it's way better.
Very, very well
Yeah.
said, because life is giving us what we need. Every experience, every relationship, every difficulty, it's a new opportunity to let go. And it's karmic. We're having the experience we need to have based on our personal karma. It's the thing that we need to address in ourselves. And so that's why you'll notice the same difficulties on loop a lot of times, the same uh, personalities. It may be different people, but you're having the same outcome with all these different people. And it's because that's your lesson. That's the thing that you need to learn to integrate. And so, so it's grace, although it feels awful in the moment typically, but all of life is grace, and it's
Yeah.
bringing us into our highest life path.
That's
And
right.
of course, in miracles really helps with that. It helps to shift our perspective so that we don't prolong the suffering, so that we can, shift our perspective in a way that, that we don't keep going in those same circles. That we integrate some things and move forward. Um, so yeah, do you guys have anything you'd like to share before we wrap up today?
I would just end by encouraging anyone listening, get you A Course in Miracles. Just get it and try it. And if it doesn't seem tangible right away, don't give up. Come back to it because you're always growing. And this is a message meant for everybody. And it's a message I really hope will find everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you get the Course in Miracles, like I was saying at the beginning, just understand what the ego is. That's like, I would say, the biggest key to understanding it a little bit better.
Yeah. I echo what both of you have said. And as we close out today, I want to remind everyone that our Patreon Burrow gatherings are the first Sunday of every month from 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Zoom. It's a safe space to ask questions, share your thoughts, and engage with topics like we discuss here in these episodes. The link to join is in the show notes below. Thank you all for joining us for this episode of Transcending the Rabbit Hole. As always, cosmic blessings and peace.
Do you ever grow discouraged by the weight of this world? Does Big Brother get you down with all the lies that he's told? Does the gloom and doom of nightly news haunt your dreams? So you scroll instead of sleep, 'cause distraction is key. But as long as there is still a sun up in the sky, I can choose to live on the sunny side. It's somewhere between burying my head in the sand and falling down the rabbit hole again. I was sleeping just fine peacefully inside my American dream, awoken when those puppet strings were cut right off. The evidence you can't ignore, share it, call you misinformed. I know the truth, but trying not to lose my mind. I'm somewhere between burying my head in the sand and falling down the rabbit hole again. It takes a worried man to sing a worried song, and the state of humankind had me humming alone. Hello, common sense, I'm convinced we've lost our way, sold our attention to the system. Now there's power to reclaim, but as long as there's a heart beating in my chest, I will cling to hope that's true. I will cast out the rest. There's no price on peace of mind, knowing you won't find it here. It's that perfect love above calling you near. I was sleeping just fine peacefully inside my American dream, awoken when those puppet strings were cut right off. The evidence you can't ignore, share it, call you misinformed. I know the truth, but trying not to lose my mind. I'm somewhere between burying my head in the sand and falling down the rabbit hole again. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side.